What's up? Welcome in, everybody. Appreciate you being here. I got Nonsense Steve. We got Mike Burland. Mike, how you doing today?
Good. It's exciting times. It's our week one waiver wire. Probably not as good as last year where it was like Kyron and Puka and all that fun stuff, but you never know.
Plenty to talk about.
Really yeah.
Now we got to talk about Puka for other reasons.
Yeah. And CMC. Jeez.
Right. Yeah. Boring week one, right? Not much happening at all.
I know.
All right. So let's get right into it. We've got a few injuries have happened this week. We'll kick it off with quarterback as always. Jordan Love's got an MCL sprain out 3 to 6 weeks. They're hoping it's on the lower end, but got to know that. And then Russell Wilson dealing with a calf injury. That's not super fantasy relevant in my book, just because you probably weren't playing Russell Wilson anyway. But you want to go through your QB options if you need one.
Yeah, Stafford, we saw him look good. Wish Puka was out there for that, because when Puka and Cooper Kupp are out there together, like Stafford's numbers are really, really good, but still put up over 300 yards, a touchdown. I believe the Rams, they get the Cardinals in week 2. So I think that's a pretty easy defense to throw on overall. So I like Stafford. Justin Fields is maybe a little bit more long-term if you're not looking for a quarterback to start this week and you just want to stash someone. I still think that he possibly takes that job over. So we'll see. I'm sure they're going to give Russell Wilson a chance, but those are like the two ones. I can go into a couple deeper ones if you want before you get to yours, or you get. Yeah.
Well, I mean, mine is going to be the same one every week, just like it was my same one every week last year. Is you people don't appreciate Baker Mayfield enough.
Yeah.
He's currently 13% rostered in sleeper leagues, 32%, I believe, across ESPN and Yahoo. So extremely available. He was the QB1 for a good chunk of the day, depending on your scoring system. He may have gotten beat out by Josh Allen to be QB2, but whatever it may be, he's a top 2 QB this week against Washington. Next 3 games at Detroit, who you just talked about, Matt Stafford tore apart. Denver at home, and then Philadelphia at home. Those are all plus matchups 3 weeks in a row, and he's readily available. So Baker Mayfield, pretty easy one for me there.
Yeah, I purposely left him off so you could talk about him.
Wanted to tee me up. I appreciate that.
Him or Stafford are definitely who I'm targeting. Probably. I mean, Baker now, like, you throw in the rookie Jalen McMillan, who's obviously not fantasy relevant himself, but he makes things better for Baker. Like, Bucky Irving can catch the ball. Yeah, he's in a good situation for sure. And then deeper ones. I mean, Derek Carr looked good. He didn't pass for a lot of yards, but that offense looked good with their first game.
Well,
under Clint Kubiak, but it was against the Panthers, so there's a asterisk
looked
there.
Good against that high school team out there. Yep, they really torched them. We'll find out. They're playing the Cowboys this week, I believe, right? So we'll find out how they actually are, if the Saints are back or not. We do have one for this evening: Juice, Conklin, or Garindo. Garindo's going to be the kick returner, so you're really hoping for lightning in a bottle there.
Yeah,
but I'm probably not trusting Juice to get enough work to do anything unless you're thinking he's the sniper vulturing at the goal line. But I'd say it's probably Conklin is the one with the established role.
I mean, he's up 15 versus Hall and Debo, so not looking good.
Right. I would say Conklin and light a bunch of candles, say a few Hail Marys. That's probably what you're looking for.
Yeah. Maybe Conklin can give you like 10 points and bump that lead up to 25 or something. But
with a tight end, you're always just hoping they find their way in the end zone for that one catch, right? One catch for 2 yards and a touchdown. That's what you're hoping for.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's go to running backs. We've got Kenneth Walker's dealing with an abdominal injury, something to keep an eye on. We also have Devin Achane has an undisclosed injury. I believe it was something to do with his knee, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
But he was dealing with injuries all last season. This is part of the reason we talked about in the Miami show that we were skeptical about him being able to handle a full workload coming into this season. So what are some running backs that you're looking to pick up off waivers if you are desperate?
Yeah, I mean, we should, Julian McLaughlin, He's under 50% on ESPN, which, I thought he'd be a little bit more rostered, to be honest. But interesting enough, like we thought he was going to be more of the passing guy. He was taking the early down work. Still caught some 5 catches. He didn't really do much with any of it. But if he's going to be the early down guy and Javonte is going to be kind of the Samaje Perine of this team, like that's good for McLaughlin at times. It's tough to trust, Denver and their offense overall.
In general, sure. Yeah.
A couple guys who,
but still, he got, to your point, he got 35% of the snaps. So, I mean, he was out there pretty regularly.
Yep. And then a couple guys who are backups, but they took a little bit more work from the starters than I think we expected in Bucky Irving and Tank Bigsby. These aren't guys that if you, for some reason, need someone in week 2 to start, but, they also, both of them looked good. They looked better rushing than the starters. Now, you always have to take that with a grain of salt because usually the second back to come in, teams are maybe not as focused on them. But, these are 2 guys that they're getting a little bit of work and they're kind of, they're handcuffs as of right now, I believe. And if something happens to ETN or Rachaad White, you're going to want these guys.
Yeah. And then for me, I've got Jalen Wright, which is a big stash, deeper league, deep dive. He is less than 1% owned on sleeper leagues. So a name to know, he was a healthy scratch, coach's decision, inactive for Miami in week 1 because it's a crowded room. But if something is wrong with Achane and he misses that game, Wright will absolutely be active and he will have some kind of role, be it in special teams, pass catching. So if you've got deep benches or you're in a deep league, it's certainly a name to know to be looking for. Okay, we got another one. I'm sure there's a lot of upset CMC people.
I know.
CMC owner locked in for tonight. Can't add anyone. Would you drop Mike Williams for Jordan Mason? Wide receiver depth isn't great. I would not.
Yeah. I mean, and now
I guess the situation. So my assumption based on his wording is that he's got a running back slot that he needs to fill because otherwise he would just play Mike Williams.
Well, I think he's saying the CMC owner they can't pick up Mason.
Oh,
so
I see.
He's looking to get ahead of the
Gotcha.
waiver wire.
Gotcha.
That's how I'm reading it. So
okay, well, if that's the case, absolutely not. I mean, I could understand you doing it if you were completely desperate for tonight because you needed points and CMC was out. But if Mike, if you're reading that correctly, that it's just he's trying to get ahead of the waiver wire, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I said in our Discord chat, look, Mason was the guy. He was the workhorse in the preseason when CMC wasn't playing. That's totally fine. But it's a Kyle Shanahan offense. CMC is the only guy who has ever come in. Yeah, you're right. CMC is the only guy who has ever come into that offense and been the guy. In every other year, every other situation, every other opportunity, it has been a car wash. It's been a full-on running back rotation, running back by committee, and I think this would be no different. And like I said, I feel like he suited up, he worked out, he was expecting to play, he was confident he was going to play, and then he just said he didn't feel 100%. And the 49ers care more about playing in January and February than they do right now in the first weekend of September. So this game doesn't mean a lot to them long term, but he does. So they're sitting him out, especially because it's a short week. You got Monday Night Football. So now you're going to go into a Sunday game on a short week. You're going to give him as much time as possible to be ready for week 2. I think it's just them being safe. I don't think this is a long-term issue for McCaffrey. And if somebody, like if Mason has a huge game tonight for whatever reason against a good Jets run defense, I would be surprised. But if it did happen and somebody wants to blow a majority of their fab on Mason, let them make that mistake. I'm all right with that. I don't need to be in a bidding for that.
Yeah, I generally agree. And unless we think this is a little bit more of a long-term injury, they did add the Achilles to the injury tag, which is slightly concerning, but I would assume that
honestly, I feel like that's why they're being precautious, is because they added that tag to it at the end there. But again, we don't know. We just have to speculate. That's all we can do. But I would think we talked about it with San Francisco in the offseason as well. Just that if something were to happen to CMC, not only would this be a car wash, but they would sign a veteran. There's no way this is just going to be the Jordan Mason show the rest of the year. If CMC went down for whatever reason, they would bring in some kind of vet or they would trade for somebody. They would not go the rest of the way with Jordan Mason leading the backfield. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, let's talk about wide receivers. Let's see. Wide receiver injuries, of course, we mentioned it a couple of times. Puka Nacua, he had a knee injury over the summer. He was able to rehab, work through it, missed most of the preseason, played like a quarter and a half pretty much last night, and then re-aggravated the injury. They have now put him on IR, so he's going to miss at least the next 4 weeks. So it's going to be a big blow to that offense. But again, it goes back to being the Cooper Kupp show. We've also got Jordan Addison dealing with an ankle injury, T. Higgins with a knee injury, and they've already basically ruled him out for week 2. And then DJ Chark going on IR. I don't know how many people that's really affecting, but the note is on here. So guys to pick up a wide receiver, Mike.
Yeah. Brandon Cooks got into the end zone, 4 catches, 40 yards and a touchdown. He had a good stretch last year. Started off the season poorly, but those 7-8 weeks, the last 7-8 weeks, he was actually pretty good. And yesterday's performance came off of, I think Dak had less than 200 yards passing. He had like 180 yards or something. It was not big. They didn't really have to do much.
They were in control of that game from the jump, pretty much.
Which can happen with the Cowboys and that defense. So I don't mind Brandon Cooks. He feels like a nice potential bye week replacement bench guy to throw in that he can catch a couple touchdowns on a good offense. So if he's out there, I don't mind targeting him. Demarcus Robinson, who might already be rostered on a lot of teams if you play in a little bit, more tougher leagues, kind of casual leagues, not so much. But we saw him be good last year, the last 5-6 weeks, being the wide receiver 3 for the Rams. And now he's potentially the number 2. If he's taken, Tyler Johnson, potentially. I like Jordan Whittington, the rookie, but they're probably going to ease him in a little bit. He's a 6th-round pick, and not everyone's Puka Nacua. Just names to keep an eye on. So those 2 for sure. A little bit deeper. Wan'Dale Robinson, he had 11 targets. It was Daniel Jones targets, but still 11 targets. And
Did you see the there was a video going around from the Giants camp or training or practice last week of a jugs machine that was like malfunctioning and it was shooting the ball into the ground. And they're like, I could see the jugs machine is practicing throwing like Daniel Jones, getting the receivers ready. Yeah. It
was sad. Honestly, I expect Drew Lock to come in soon. That's going to be better for Neighbors. And
we're already getting the alerts on the status update of is he starting or not. It's not a long leash that he's got. Do you like my stat of the day? I posted that in our Discord as well too. The link, by the way, if you want to join, become a member and hop in our Discord conversation. But since he signed the 4-year, $160 million contract extension, he has 2 passing touchdowns to New York Giants and 3 passing touchdowns to every other team.
That's sad.
Isn't it?
Isn't
it just sad but true?
Yeah. And they're going to move on very quickly. Dayball is on the hot seat, and like if he doesn't perform, and he's not going to leave his job to Daniel Jones. That's for sure.
Sure.
But it was actually 12 targets for Wan'Dale. So, good little PPR option there. Josh Downs as well, more of a deeper stash. He was kind of, in the short sample size we saw, he was a little bit of a favorite for Anthony Richardson. And, he could provide a little bit, again, kind of like that PPR floor potentially when he comes back. I'm not sure if he's going to be back week 2, but again, more of a deeper stash. And there's other, Rashid Shaheed, if he's out there, is an obvious one. Him and Carr seem to have a connection. Tough to know when to start him, but still, during bye weeks and stuff, maybe you need that home run shot, and Shaheed can definitely provide that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about it, unless you have someone else.
I was trying to see if I've got anybody here that really jumped out to me. I know there were a couple like I'm having trouble with Sleeper giving me accurate information because I feel like this can't be right. But Gabe Davis, 44% rostered across ESPN and Yahoo leagues, and he's the home run hitter in that offense, just like he was in Buffalo. So he saw a handful of targets yesterday, caught 3 of them for 62 yards, ended up leading the team in receiving. So that's my name to note. I think everybody else that you covered pretty well. I mean, we talked about guys like, Demario Douglas for New England, because someone has to eventually emerge as the guy for New England, right? They're going to be in a real game at some point, and they're going to have to throw the ball more. But yeah, I think those are probably the best ones.
Well, one more I do see, Romeo Dobbs is 34% on ESPN, which seems pretty low to me. Definitely, especially if they're going to, I know they're moving to Malik Willis for hopefully not too long.
Right.
If someone's going to do well with Willis, I feel like Dobbs might be the one. Just maybe Jaden Reed, because they'll get the ball in his hands and manufacture touches. But someone short area, I'm not going to rely on him to, push the ball down the field. So I'm down on guys like Christian Watson, but maybe Dobbs can sneak something.
Sure, makes sense. My favorite, I think, is your the Demarcus Robinson one, because in that late third and fourth quarter, he was really somebody that Stafford was looking to when he wasn't going to Cup. So I feel like he kind of slides into that number 2 role. All right, let's talk about tight ends. So David Njoku dealing with a high ankle sprain, gonna probably miss a couple of games, could potentially play through it, but probably going to need a replacement there. Jake Ferguson dealing with a knee injury. We still don't know the complete severity of that yet, correct?
No, it doesn't sound
on those results,
great.
But it doesn't sound good. And then
I think he missed
the other ones
major injury.
Don't matter. I think we're fine. All right, so you got 3 guys here, and 2 of them were on my list, so you go right ahead.
Yeah, by the way, the top 2 tight ends this week weren't even guys that were drafted. 3 of the top 5 weren't even drafted. So,
well, I guess so. He's got Foster Moreau on here in the concussion protocol, and I guess it matters because he's number 2 right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Scoring for tight ends, but again, it's tight end. If you catch the ball and land in the end zone, you're gonna be a top 5 tight end that week.
He's the tight end 3 for the Saints. Like if you count Taysom Hill, so,
right? Exactly.
I mean, Isaiah Likely's obvious. Like everyone's going to be going after him. I wouldn't blow a bunch of fab, honestly, and you're probably going to have to get him. I don't think I would. 1, because it's a tight end, but 2, like they were really making a point to shut down Mark Andrews. I think Likely can be like their third weapon on that team in the passing game, but I don't expect him to put up these kind of numbers. This might be his best game all year, and I wouldn't be surprised. So just a little cautionary tale there. I think people are really gonna go out there and blow a bunch of fab, and I just wouldn't do it on Isaiah Likely. Taysom Hill is another one just under that 50%. Like he didn't do much for fantasy, but he had 5 carries, should have caught a touchdown, went off his fingertips, and they didn't really use him in the second half because they were up big, and so he barely played. If he's going to get 5 carries, even 3 targets, and they're going to use him around the goal line, and he can pass the ball every now and then. Like he's going to, I'll go with that. And even if I'll live with the 1 or 2 points, and I'll take the 20 points he gets every 3-4 weeks or something. So and then Colby Parkinson. I mean, I kind of mentioned him, I believe, when we were talking about the Rams. In 32
he was my other one. So
he's gonna replace whatever Tyler Higbee was doing, which wasn't much. It was kind of what Parkinson had, like 4 or 5 catches, 40-50 yards. Like he could do that easily, and that's a startable tight end for sure.
100%. And again, he could find his way into the end zone and make it a big day for you. So those are the 2 guys I had, Likely and Parkinson. Those were the ones to keep an eye on. And again, we have to keep in mind that this is always, overreaction theater. with week one results. We're literally talking about the smallest sample size possible. It's one game, it's 1 week. So who knows how these tendencies that happen in week one will contribute to long-term over the course of the season, consistently over the course of the season, compared to, this was just 1 week, 1 game plan that got some of these guys involved or less involved than normal. Like, I don't think the Lions for the rest of the season are barely going to look at Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. I think they're going to get those guys way more involved going forward.
Yeah. And a couple more here. This is a little bit deeper if you miss out on Likely and if Hill's rostered and Parkinson. Tucker Kraft seems to be the tight end one for the Packers. I kind of been talking about that all offseason. Like, people are looking at Luke Musgrave. Even when they were drafted second, third round. I was like, Tucker Kraft has like just as good of a chance to be the starter. And seems like he is the starter. At least that's how he began the year. So, a lot of mouths to feed, but you're always going to get something with the tight end production on most teams. They're going to target the tight end at some point. And then, Jordan Akins is probably the backup to Njoku, but that's like, you're really reaching down the
I was literally just going to say Jordan Akins. So he has the connection with Watson from Houston, but also the fact that, again, as pathetic as it is, because the position is so pathetic, but David Njoku had an 8.4 in the half of a game that he played. And then Akins played the entire second half as the starter and had 5.7. So if you just do loose math and say one guy gets the whole tight end production and that guy happens to be Akins, then even without a touchdown, he would have had a 14.1 on the day, which right now would be tight end 3. So, it's not like you're getting a lot of points out of the position. And if he ends up in the end zone, he's a tight end 2 or 1.
And Akins he was with Watson in Houston for a few years. So there's a little bit of connection.
They have the history and connection there. Yep. All right. How about defense?
Yeah, Seahawks have, they were the team, if you play with defenses, I was targeting in drafts, because you take defenses kind of week by week, to be honest. You should, unless you have, the elite couple. But, Seahawks, they looked good against the Broncos. And now they get the Patriots, who, the Patriots won, but they offensively didn't do much. I forget how many points they have. 16 points is what they had. So they're not an offensive juggernaut. Totally like the Seahawks for one more week. Colts, I like as well, because the Colts get to play the Packers, and the Packers just lost their starting quarterback. And then they get the Bears after that and the Steelers. So, like, you get a good run there of offenses. I think the Bears will turn it around at some point, but maybe early on is when to catch them. Steelers, we know what they are. They're defensive, run the ball kind of team. So potentially with the Colts, you get 3 good weeks here. So
the team I was targeting, I know it's going to shock you, all offseason was the Bears defense. They led the league in interceptions last year. They go for takeaways. They don't give up a lot of points. They got better on the front end and in the secondary. And then they scored 2 touchdowns yesterday against the Titans. So they have Sunday Night Football against the Texans this week, which isn't a fantastic matchup, but they're also like barely rostered right now. So they're very widely available. And after the Texans, they've got the Colts, the Rams, and then the Panthers and Jags before they hit their bye. So again, I'm not scared of matchups against them unless it's like a top 5 offense, which they don't see until basically the end of the season. So I think they've got a pretty good run if you are desperate and you're looking for somebody to fill in, or you're trying to rotate defenses. Maybe they're not the one to play this week, but certainly something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And again, and to your point, they might become one of those defenses that you just play no matter the matchup. And they're just that good, So
the turnovers are everything.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. 100%. And I think, we saw Travis Homer. Did he take one to the house? Was he the first one to do it? The running back. Travis Homer?
No, he was. They had the blocked punt returned for a touchdown, and that was Simone Biles' husband. What's his name? I'm blanking right now.
I thought Homer returned one, a kick return for a touchdown. Maybe not, but
no. Or
I might be thinking of someone else.
DJ Dallas did. He used to be on the
Bears.
Bears.
Who it is.
Yeah, he did that for Arizona.
That's who it is. Yeah.
Let's see. Would we take Baker, Tua? I'm all Baker all the time. You know that. Come on. I'm the Baker guy. That's me.
Yeah. No, I don't hate it. Who are the Dolphins playing? Dolphins playing the Bills on Thursday night. This week I'm starting Baker. Thursday night football and stuff. Yeah. Apparently Adam Schefter said it might be a multi-week thing with McCaffrey. Like he might miss next week as well. So that does change things on Jordan Mason a little bit. Like, again, we don't know if he's the true handcuff, but if you're able to stash him right now, like, which might be closed, but, he's definitely a guy because he could be. We never know. Like, we think he won't be, but he could just be the guy.
He could. I could absolutely be wrong. It's happened before, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm not seeing that. I see that in our chat, but I'm not seeing that actually from Schefter anywhere.
Yeah, I thought I just saw it.
Unless he's saying it on TV right now while we're talking.
I thought I saw it. I saw it in the chat.
There's no actual information.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But if Mason is available and you have a roster spot, great, go for it. But to what Daniel was talking about earlier, am I going to drop Mike Williams to pick up Jordan Mason? Probably not. Because I feel like I'm going to ultimately, even if Mason has a good week, I'd end up spending a lot of, fab to pick him up, I guess. But I'd have to be running back desperate. I still, like I said, I even if he has a good week, there's no way with a long-term injury that they're not bringing in someone and this isn't just a car wash. No shot. Yeah. This is the Jordan Mason show long-term.
And remember, let's just say there's a good chance he just doesn't look good tonight because he's going against the Jets. And so, let's just say you don't have him. You're not going to start him next week if he doesn't look good, and then by that time McCaffrey might be back. Like there's a very small chance that you actually get some fantasy relevant points from him, so.
Right. And who are they playing next week?
49ers?
Top of your head?
Let's see. They're playing the Vikings, so
yeah.
Good matchup.
Probably a startable matchup.
Yeah.
I would say that would be in the realm of possibility. I don't know.
Yeah.
The idea that he could have possibly played tonight and he's been practicing all week, but then they're going to sit him for this game and he's not going to play just because of the turf next week. And that doesn't really compute with me. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So I don't know. Like I said, it's early season. They could sit him a couple of weeks and not care just to get him 100% right. But even then, it's a long-term play for them. If he was more severely hurt than they're leading on, they could have put him on PUP and he sits for 4 games and they get a roster spot. Why would he be on the active roster if he was healthy and ready to play?
Yeah. It could be a situation though, like Cavs, we saw with Burrow last year. Like we just don't know how long it's going to be, how long it will mess you up. And it's unfortunate. The number 1 overall pick, Madden curse lives on. Continues, so far. Right? Right. Yeah.
Yep. All right. You got any last minute things before we get out of here?
I don't think we are good to go. So good luck tonight. Right. There was a lot of players in tonight's game. So good luck to everyone.
A lot of crazy stuff happening. Appreciate you all being here. Nerd should be back next week. I'll just be lurking in the shadows as usual. But appreciate you guys stopping in. Again, click that link down in the description to join the membership program. Get into the Discord. Ask us all your questions, all your stuff there when we're off air. And keep up the nonsense.